All right, trying this again. Welcome back to an episode of Frags and Beer Radio live. This is a live show, so if you caught the first part of the clip, things weren't going so well. I think my computer needed to be rebooted. Everything was running really slow. We do have a new computer on the future plan to replace this old one. We'll see if that happens anytime in the next couple months. But if you came back or if you watched joined us for the original, thank you. If you're watching the live stream, be sure to comment, ask questions. If I say something that you want more clarification on, or if you want me to elaborate on anything, you let me know in the chat and I will get to you. I love talking to you guys. If you're watching the recording, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you have questions, drop it in the comments. I do read them. I don't get that many, so it's not a big deal, and I don't get offended at all, so you do what you got to do. Let me know what you think. You can catch all my video or all my description, contact information, everything in the video description below. You can also see a link to the site where I get my beard care from, thebeardstruggle.com. If you use the code BeardWizard99, you will get 15% off. So if you're in the market, I am really enjoying so far the products I've had, which would be the wash and conditioner. You got to keep your beard clean. Wash it every couple days. You really got to, I mean, it's hair. It's just like hair on your head. You can't just let it go. So you got to take care of it. And you can't just use regular shampoo. If you've ever put shampoo on your face, it's not a good idea. So you don't want to use shampoo in your beard. You really do need to get the proper type of soap. And the soap that they have at the Beard Struggle also doubles as a good face wash. So it you know, keep your face clean. Keeps you from breaking out. The older I get, the more problems you have with your skin. You just got to take care of it. It's the biggest organ on your body. Anyway, like I was saying in the last little segment that got cut off because of technical difficulties, I haven't done this show in a long time. I'm not sure how regular this is going to be. I've just, over the last few days, I've been seeing some things on Twitter and on Facebook, and I wrote an article. Actually, I wrote a couple articles recently that were relatively political. And if you know me on Twitter, you know I do get political from time to time. I consider myself very centrist, not the idiotic, dim-witted definition of centrist that you'll see in a lot of the memes, but somebody who sees value in arguments from both sides depending on the topic, somebody who believes that political issues range in value, range in craziness, and there is no monopoly that either party has on that craziness. By being a centrist, you believe that any issue has to be approached with an open mind to find the most logical conclusion, the most logical answer, and you basically pull down the solution you believe is the correct one from whichever shelf contains it, regardless of whether that shelf is marked with an R or a D. That's a centrist. A centrist is not somebody that believes rather than kill or save the babies, you cut the babies in half. That's moronic, and anybody who shares that idea seriously is a moron, and I'll say it flat out. I don't care if it offends people. If you share that ideal and you believe it legitimately, you're an idiot. So have fun with that. This is going to be a blunt show. If you read my last article, it's going to be very blunt, straightforward, and to the point. I've had about enough of the hypocrisy and the double standard, and I know that my voice is not welcome in some issues that are going on right now. I've heard it enough times, and I know that's not from everybody. I know that's not from most people, but with the current issues going on, I do have a lot of ideas that I think would help, and I have a lot of things to say, but my voice is unwelcome. Because the only thing most people want me to use my voice for, or a lot of people want me to use my voice for, is to agree with them 100%, and that's just not going to happen. Because I don't agree 100% with everything everybody says, so we're going to talk about some of those things here. We're going to talk about some of the ways that I believe you can change the way this country's going. As the title says, you have more than two choices in November. Stop letting the media, stop letting political parties, stop letting your friends, stop letting activists, stop letting lobbyists, stop letting unions, stop letting companies convince you that you don't have more than two choices. You have more than two choices in November. So there's one thing that I want to read from you. I am a lover of history, and in that being a lover of history, I believe in going back to original sources. I believe in reading what people wrote, not what people say people did, not what people today think that people did, or not the way people today interpret the actions of people who are no longer alive, people who haven't been alive for a long time. So this is a book. This is George Washington, a collection edited by W.B. Allen, but obviously written by George Washington. When you want to know what a person thinks or believes, you should always go back to what they said, what they wrote, what they did, not a modern interpretation. And George Washington, just like a lot of the early founders of this country, was not a perfect man. He had his flaws. He had many flaws. We don't revere George Washington because we think he's perfect. We revere George Washington because his ideas transcended the place he found himself in his life. It's a weird concept to wrap your brain around, that many of the founders, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, believe, and I'm terrible with names and putting things together, but many of those patriots were abolitionists, for example, but they also owned slaves, which seems really strange. And they also had a strange idea of how abolition should come about and what should do. They knew it wouldn't work. They knew they wouldn't be able to get rid of it. And George Washington was stuck in a particularly unique situation in that the slaves he did own most of them belonged to his wife. And where he lived, it was illegal to free slaves. He would have been imprisoned had he followed through on what he believed. He actually, and if I'm remembering right, he actually believed that the people who were enslaved and brought over from Africa should be sent back home. They should be allowed to go back to where their homes were, which at the time, like now, it seems really weird because we tell people, oh, get out of the country if you don't love it, which is kind of a harsh thing to say and really not all that cool. But back then, you're talking people separated by a couple generations from their homeland, and these abolitionists believed that, well, we brought them here against their will. We should send them back home. Let them go back. I mean, and then that's not an unusual mindset. If somebody ripped you out of your home, and then suddenly had a change of heart, or somebody else was trying to help you, you would think they'd want to let you go back home, not keep you where you were, which just would seem like a strange concept. But anyway, George Washington, not a perfect man, in his own words, talking about political parties. And I brought this up before, so pardon me if you have read anything that I've written regarding political parties. I've quoted this before. But this is what he said. Now, George Washington served 2 terms. They wanted him to be a king. When he was originally elected president, they basically wanted him to be the king of America. And he said, no, we have a 2-term presidential system basically because of George Washington. He could have been anything he wanted to be. He could have been emperor. He could have been king. He could have been whatever he decided to be. They basically elected him to lead the country and told him to make of it what he would. And he came up with the idea of president. He also refused to serve more than 2 terms, and they wanted him to. So up until FDR, we have George Washington to thank for the 2-term presidency of his own volition. So that should speak volumes about the man's values. But he said of political parties, and this is in his farewell address, is 1792, I believe. But this would have been his last speech to the American people, 1796. he said, I've already intimated to you the danger of parties in the state, with particular reference to the founding of them on geographical discriminations. Let me now take a more comprehensive view and warn you in the most solemn manner against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. So listen to what he says, and then and think about whether that applies today or not. This spirit, unfortunately, is inseparable from our nature, having its root in the strongest passions of the human mind. It exists under different shapes in all governments, more or less stifled, controlled, or repressed, but in those of the popular form it has seen its greatest rankness and is truly their worst enemy. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual, and sooner or later the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns his disposition to the purpose of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought to be entirely out of sight, the common and continual mischiefs of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and the duty of wise people to discourage and restrain it. So he specifically points to how political parties are going to lead to people who are going to basically elevate themselves on the backs of it by turning people to jealousy and vengeance and turning them against each other. Does that sound a little familiar, doesn't it? It serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against the other, foments occasional riot and insurrection. It opens the doors to foreign influence and corruption, which finds and facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. Thus, the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and will of another. There is an opinion that parties in free countries are useful checks upon the administration of the government and serve to keep it alive in the spirit of liberty. This within certain limits is probably true, and in governments of the monarchical caste, patriotism may look with indulgence, if not with favor, upon the spirit of party. But in those of the popular character, in governments purely elective, it is a spirit not to be encouraged. From their natural tendency, it is certain there will always be enough of that spirit for every salutary purpose, and there being constant danger of excess, the efforts ought to be, by force of public opinion, to mitigate and assuage it. A fire not to be quenched, it demands a uniform vigilance to prevent its bursting into a flame, lest instead of warming it should consume. So he was, even in 1796, as our first president, he was very clear that he believed political parties were going to ruin the country. Political parties are the downfall of a duly elected government. And look at where we are today. Look at how people turn on each other. Look at how people, they don't even talk to each other anymore. How many times have you seen somebody just spout off that conservatives believe that or liberals believe this, and you look at it as a conservative or a liberal and you're like, no, I don't believe that. But that person didn't get that perspective from actually looking or talking to other people. They got that perspective by talking about other people, not to them but about them, talking to other people about what they think the other party believes, and then listening to the media about what the media says the other party believes, and then listening to politicians about what their other party believes. Of course a politician is going to tell you the other party is bad. Without a doubt, a Democrat's going to tell you a Republican is bad, and vice versa. Why wouldn't they? Their entire career, which shouldn't be a career, their entire career is based on getting you to vote for them, not the other guy. So why are they even going to entertain the idea of saying, "Oh no, yeah, they're fine, they're okay, but our ideas are a little better." They don't. You don't ever hear a politician say that. You never hear a politician say, "Oh, they're not so bad. My idea's just a little better." They don't say that. They sling mud and garbage and venom and just like, "Oh, those guys are so bad. They want to eat babies. So you got to vote for me." You know, not that their idea is better, just that those guys are worse. And that's kind of the point that I want everybody to think about going into November. Politicians aren't telling you that their ideas are better. They're telling you that their ideas aren't as bad as the other guy. So I saw a post today. Actually, I saw it last night and I responded to it. This is what blew me away. Okay, so this guy posted this sign. And I'm not going to show it to you. Well, I wonder if I can show. I can't show it to you without redacting some of the names. It's a Facebook post, but it's a picture of somebody holding a sign that says, "Not all Trump supporters are racist, but all of them decided that racism isn't a deal breaker." So I commented on this post and I said, let me see if I can find my post so I make sure I quote myself accurately, because I posted this last night after a couple of beers, which is usually when I wind up diving into something political on Facebook, because I really try to avoid it there. I just posted, going to hold that same sign for Biden, right? And then one of the replies was, "Why?" Well, why do you think Joe Biden recently told a black commentator, if you aren't sure who to vote for, so they were talking about, they were talking to Biden about his campaign and about his ideas, and he said, "Have me back," and the commentator basically said, "Yeah, because I have more questions, because I want it, I'm not so sure." And Biden said, "If you're not sure, you ain't black." I would never in a million years say that to any person of any ethnicity, to question their ethnicity, much less a black commentator in which I'm a guest on his show, and say, if you aren't sure about whatever it is, you ain't black. Wouldn't even cross my mind. Like, to me, the idea of saying that is so foreign, so ridiculous, that it just wouldn't come. I just wouldn't say it. People who those words, those ideas come so quickly to, have to hold that in them somewhere all the time. And that's not the only time. He said not too long ago, actually it was quite a while ago, when he was vice president, he said that, where to go? I had this exact quote. Here. He said, "You can't go into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent." I'm not joking. He said that. I'm not saying I'm not joking, but I'm not. He said, "I'm not joking." So all the people that say, "Oh, he was just making a joke," he literally said, "You can't go into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts without an Indian accent." I'm not joking. And then I saw, and I hadn't heard this, he said, "Poor kids are just as bright, and just as talented as white kids." What does that say? That he says poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. So are there no poor white kids? Because we know that's stupid. So is he just saying, is he using the word poor in the place of minorities who aren't all poor? Like, for somebody like him to say something like that means he has to hold some sort of value in him that sees poor people as minorities and white people as not poor. And if you don't think that's racist, I don't know how else to convince you. And I'm not here to convince a Trump hater to like Trump. I know for a fact that's not going to happen. And I'm not here to convince a Trump supporter to think Trump is bad, because I know that's not going to happen. But if we are going to hold Trump and Trump voters to this standard, that if you voted for Trump, then you're saying racism is okay, then if you vote for Biden, you're saying racism is okay because Biden is a racist. No doubts about it. He is. He may not be as vocal or nasty as some people, but he is. He clearly views people that aren't like him as less than or different than based on their race, not just based on the fact that he's a rich politician, but based on their race. And that makes him a racist. So if you're going to vote for Biden, I want you to own it. So look yourself in the mirror, sit there and do it. Don't quibble about it. Stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm going to vote for Biden, who's a racist. And own that. And then the next time you think about posting something about a Trump supporter being racist for voting for Trump, I want you to stop and I want you to repeat that to yourself. I voted for Biden, who's a racist. And maybe think about, and I don't want you to do that because I want you to beat yourself up. I want you to think about why you voted for Biden, because I know why a lot of people are going to vote for Biden. He's not Trump. I think that's a dumbass reason, but there's a lot of people that are going to do it for that reason. He's not Trump. They think that's their only choice. They believe there's two choices in the world. One of them is evil and the other one is Biden. That's basically it. They're like, and I've seen these posts. And one of the best arguments I saw in that post is voting for Trump is like voting for cancer, and voting for Biden is like voting to get shot in the leg. Why not vote for either one? Why do you constantly go to the voting booth? I picture it like this. There's 3 voting booths out there. 2 of them are going to punch you in the face when you pull the lever. And every single time you line up at that booth knowing that there's a fist behind it. And there's a third one sitting over there that you're like, that's a waste of time. There's no fist over there. There might be, but we're pretty sure there's not until we vote for him and see what happens. But you know for a fact there's a fist behind the other 2. And you line up every time you go in that curtain, you pull that lever and you get hit in the face. And then you do it again 4 years later, thinking, this time it'll be okay. And this time they won't do it. And you get hit in the face again. So that's what I want you to think about. Own that. Own that you're letting yourself get hit in the face, and stop letting yourself and the rest of us get divided, because that's what they want. That's what George was telling us. George was telling us that these political parties are going to use their power and they're going to use their influence. They're going to use our natural instinct to form tribes, to form protective circles of people that are like us. That's what it is. That's what tribalism is. George basically knew that human nature said we were going to form groups of people like us around us to protect us. That's human nature. That's instinct. That's survival. Politicians, these party leaders, and the media know that. They know how people behave. They know exactly how we feel. So they know that we're going to form these groups, these tribes, these parties to protect us. And they're using that against us. And they're saying, well, those other tribes, those tribes are trying to hurt you. Those tribes are trying to damage you. They're trying to take something away from you. And they're creating this hate. And you don't know that for sure. You don't know specifically what other people believe until you talk to them. A lot of people might be surprised about what I believe. They might be surprised about what I'm liberal about, what I'm conservative about, but you know what? They don't bother to ask. They look at what I post. Say I post something in support of guns. They assume I'm a conservative. They assume I'm a Republican. They assume I voted for Trump. None of those things are true. But they don't ask me. They just assume. People assume if you vote for Trump that you're against gay marriage, for example. But you know who actually voted against gay marriage? Biden. Joe Biden voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. basically saying that the federal government was not going to support any gay marriage, whether a state made it illegal or not, was not going to allow gay marriage to become, you wouldn't be able to file for taxes together, you wouldn't get any benefits as a married couple from the federal government. Joe Biden actually voted against supporting gay marriage as a federal thing. So when you say that people who voted for Trump hate gay people because they think Trump does, then what are you doing if you vote for Biden? He also passed a bill that included Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So at what point are we going to say that neither one of these parties, neither one of these tribes, these power groups that have split us and forced us to fight each other, when are we going to say that neither one of them has our best interest at heart? Neither one of them has anybody's best interest at heart. And so that's kind of the point, is you need to start talking to the people around you. You need to start asking questions. Instead of assuming that your neighbor hates you because your neighbor has a Second Amendment sign in their front yard and you're flying a rainbow flag over yours, talk to him. I bet you he doesn't hate you. I bet money that he doesn't. I bet if you talk to the people around you rather than talk about the people around you, you're going to find that, like Maya Angelou said, we are more alike than we are not. We are all running the same race toward the same finish line. We just don't all agree on the same route to take. And there's nothing wrong with that, because not every route's going to work. But we're still running to the same goal. We still want the same outcome. We still want this dream, this vision, this experiment that's America, to come to a place where everybody and anybody can succeed, where they can be free, where they can speak their mind without fear, where they can live their life without restriction. That's where we're going for. We just don't all agree on getting there the same way. And your path may work and my path might work, but they both might fail and somebody else's path might be the right one. So talk to them, talk to everybody, and you have more than two choices in November. Look at, it doesn't take a lot of time. Look at where the money comes from. First of all, the really easy thing to do, and let me look it up so that I don't misname the place. But if you type, this literally takes 2 seconds. Try this in your own browser whenever you feel like it. But if you just put Joe Biden campaign finance, or any politician, and I keep using Joe Biden because I'm not going to talk about Trump more than I need to. Because again, people who hate him don't care, and people who love him don't care. I'm not going to change your mind. So, opensecrets.org. So if you just Google put any politician's name in, followed by campaign finances, you're going to get the Open Secrets site almost every time. And a lot of times you're going to see what their campaign finances are. Now, I call this importantly because right now one of the big issues that we are talking about is police brutality. Police brutality on criminals and suspects is ridiculous right now. Their response to protesters is out of line. Their use of force is, I don't want to say many cases because I don't believe that all cops are bad. I hate that phrase. I hate the ideal. But there are too many extreme uses of force with our police departments. If you want to get police reform, one of the things you're going to have to do is get union money out of politics. The unions use their political influence and their monetary influence to sway legislation. They use it to prevent reform. They use it to help pass bills that get things for the police that they don't necessarily need to have. They also use it to sway district attorneys. If you start doing some digging into what police unions have done over the years to suppress investigations into corrupt police departments or misconduct, you'll be appalled at what you'll see. So then I ask you, why would you vote for a politician who takes money from police unions and then expect them to reform them? You're not going to get police reform out of Joe Biden when Joe Biden gets $1.25 million from unions. Many of them are police unions. Why would he go against the people who are giving him money? So look at all the politicians. There are 50 that I saw last. 49 Democrats, 1 independent, and 0 Republicans get money from police unions in their most recent campaign financing. 50 House members and congressmen, 1 independent, 49 Democrats. Why would you expect them to pass legislation to reform police departments if the police departments are paying them? And that's just at the federal level. That's not your local DAs. That's not your local mayors and governors. Look at all the politicians you're about to vote for in November. Who's getting money from police unions? If you really want reform, which is desperately needed, you cannot vote for people who are getting paid by the same people who are preventing any reform. It's just not logical. And you want to go back to Biden's record, he helped create this problem. He passed a bill that put more He passed a bill in, hopefully I don't get the dates wrong, 97. He wrote and helped pass a bill that helped put more nonviolent criminals in prison. Nonviolent criminals in prison is vastly swayed toward young black men. He also passed a bill that gave more military surplus gear to police departments. You know, the police departments that are using tear gas right now, you can thank Joe Biden for them having that. The ones that have grenade launchers, let me correct that. The police department didn't give back grenade launchers. They gave back a 40 millimeter platform that fires a lot of different things, not grenades. You don't have any police departments out there with grenades. They've got smoke, they've got tear gas, they use them for rubber bullets, they may even use them for beanbag shells. They're not using them for freaking fragmentation grenades. So whenever you see somebody in the media post that, hold them accountable. The media is vile. The media lies to you. Don't believe me, check yourself. Look yourself. I'm so tired of people who just post everything and believe it. You can't just post things. You have to check. Wait 3 days, check 3 sources. Don't post things that are wrong. Because what you do when you post something that's wrong, even if you go back and correct it, it's already out there. People already believe it. People are already fighting it. So look on opensecrets.org. Look on all the other places. You can find this stuff at the tip of your fingers. If you're watching this show, you could be on Google finding this information. So make sure you look up all your politicians. Make sure you see who's getting money from who. And don't vote for the people that are getting money that are to not help you. Think of it this way. The police union is meant to be the voice of the police department. That's what their job is. Whether I'm not going to argue whether a police union is supposed to exist or not. Some people believe they shouldn't. I believe one way or the other. That's not my point. The point is their purpose for existing is to sit at the table when the police department, the police officers need to negotiate better pay, better benefits, more training, whatever it is. That's the union's job. They are the voice of the police department. Now, the police work for us. They're civil servants. Civil servants specifically work for a government. They work for an answer to a government. In the United States of America, the government is the people. We elect officials to speak for us, but we are the government. So those police departments, those civil servants, they work for us. Those are our employees. Now, we elect people, politicians, mayors, governors, district attorneys, senators, congressmen, all those people we elect them to be our voice on the other side of the table. Now, how can you trust our voice to speak for us when it's getting money from the police department's voice? It's just like, imagine you're at work and you're trying to get paid better from your boss, and then, no, let's say better. So you're competing with an employee, you're competing with a fellow employee for a promotion, right? You're both sitting at the table, you're both making your case, but the guy next to you is giving money to the boss and you're not. How's that fair? That's what it is. The police unions are giving money to our voice at the table. So who's speaking for us? So when it comes to police reform in the next few years, the legislation you want passed over the next few years, which desperately needs to be passed over the next few years, how can we trust them to pass that legislation? How can we trust them to make it good and solid, to make it strong, to make it actually do something, to make it stick? You can't. They're getting paid from the same people that are going to not want that legislation passed. So when you vote, even if you have to vote against your party, you've been voting for this Republican or this Democrat for years. Every time they come up for election because you like them, you vote for them. But they're getting money from the police unions. Don't vote for them next time. What's it going to hurt you? It's a 2-year cycle, especially in Congress and the House. So what if one seat flips because you didn't vote for them because they were taking money for the police unions? It's 2 years. Teach them a damn lesson. Get somebody else in there. The next guy that comes along, if they're taking money for the police union, don't vote for them. Let them know they don't own your vote. Let Joe Biden know he doesn't own your vote just because of your skin color. That's what he was saying when he said, if you're not sure you ain't black. He was saying, I own your vote because I'm a Democrat and you're black. That's what Joe Biden was saying. Don't give them that. You are a person who has your own beliefs, your own ideals, your own mind. You're an American. You are the government. You are in charge. They don't own your vote just because of your skin color or how much money you have or what state you're from. They don't own your vote because you've always been a Democrat or a Republican. They don't own your vote because your family's always been one or the other. Teach them that. They need to learn that, because right now the politicians are way too deep in this, thinking that they basically, even if they don't think they'll get voted in, they're pretty sure that the next one of their party will get voted in, just keeping the chain going. That's what it is. It's a chain. You need to get rid of the chain. So one of the things, I guess, that I want to talk about last, and I know I've rambled and ranted, and I'm not sure I really had a specific topic to talk about. It's just been a lot of things in my head over the last couple of days with all the stuff going on. Is you have more than two choices, and one of those choices, and I'm not really endorsing her yet, but I really want people to look at Joe Jorgensen. I know everybody says third parties will vote for that guy. You're going to have every Democrat out there saying voting third parties will vote for Trump, and every Republican's going to say the other thing. Every vote for them is a vote for Biden. Well, no, it's not. You're an individual who has a voice. Every vote for Joe Jorgensen is a vote for Joe Jorgensen. So use your voice. Tell them that they don't own your vote. Look at her. If her ideals are even remotely close to yours, consider voting for her. It's not probably going to do anything. I agree. But maybe next time it will, or the time after that. Or maybe they'll start listening if they see a vast percentage of... If a third-party candidate suddenly took 30% of the vote, holy crap, they'd stand up and take notice. Because when you split it 3 ways, 30, that's a pretty good percentage. But if you keep falling into this self-fulfilling prophecy that voting third party doesn't do anything, you're going to be stuck in the same rut. You're going to be stuck in the same cycle of nothing, no progress. You want to drain the swamp? Don't listen to a politician that says, I'm going to drain the swamp. No, you drain the swamp. Vote them out. Vote somebody else in. Vote the next guy in. Vote for the other party until your party comes up with somebody better. Refuse to be owned. Refuse to be chained to this concept that you have no choice, because you do have a choice. The worst thing, and I'm not that religious, I'm not Christian, but the worst thing the devil ever did, they say, is convince people that he didn't exist or that he was the good guy. That's what the politicians are doing. They have you convinced that they are the only choice in a world where you are supposed to have individual liberty. You are supposed to have your own free will, and they have convinced you have no choice. how can you say those words to yourself and feel free? You need to be free. You need to do what's right for you. Stick to your principles. Throw off the chains. Stop letting them think that they own you. So anyway, like I said, I rambled on. I'm not even sure if I made a whole lot of sense. I hope I did. I hope if you're watching this recording, or the few people who have popped into the live stream, I really appreciate it. If you're watching this recording, I hope it at least made you think. I hope it at least made you at least roll it around in your head. And like I said, if you want to go out there and vote for Biden, do it. You have a choice. And if that's your choice, do it. But I want you to, if you've been one of those people that has said that Trump voters are racist, or, you know, Trump is a rapist, or he's been accused of all this, if you're one of those people, I want you to own what you're doing. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm about to do this against all the things I've said about everybody else. I'm going to go vote for Biden because he's a racist. I want you to look yourself in the eye and say that. And if you can do that, do it. And I'm not going to judge you. I hate it when people judge other people for what they believe they had to do. I get it. You believe there's no other choice. Somebody might be convinced that there's more than two choices. Hell, I might convince 10 people. If I can convince one, I'm going to be just blessed by that. I'm going to be so happy if I can convince one person that they have more than two choices. Because you can't change the whole world. You can only change your little part of it. So, anyway, I think that's all of my rambling. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Check out my links below, the different things in my channel. Check out all the different videos. I'm going to do some more gaming and get back to some more happy stuff. And I might come back to one of these rants, or just some more live radio stuff and podcast stuff. I'm definitely coming back with more writing shows. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Pop in on Twitter and say hi. Pop in on Facebook at the Frags and Beer Facebook page and say hi. Check out fragsandbeer.com and all that other good stuff. And I really appreciate you guys being here. And sexist. Yes, Ray. Yes, Ray. He is sexist too. So, yeah, Biden. Ray Clark popped in, one of my author friends who recently we did a interview together. So I should be sharing that with you guys soon too. Yeah. Just own the fact that you are no different than all the people you've been complaining about for 4 years, if you've been complaining about that for 4 years. But anyway, I'm going to sign off with that. I'm going to leave you guys with that sort of brain worm. I want you to roll it around in your heads and really think about it. And let me know what you think. Ask me questions. Ask me on Twitter. I love to chat with y'all. I'm going to see you guys again soon. You guys have a great one. I really, really want you all to have a great one. I don't care what party you're from. And I will see you all next time.